Good morning to one and all. I, Dr. Lekha Rani Singh, on behalf of Amity University, Uttar Pradesh, welcome you all for the national webinar on We the People with Right to Vote under the aegis of Electoral Literacy Club ELC. Amity Law School Noida, in association with Amity Institute of Social Sciences, is organizing a national webinar in hybrid mode on the topic We the People with Right to Vote today at Amity University, Uttar Pradesh, Noida campus to spread awareness about the electoral literacy amongst the students and faculty members. This is the vision of our Honorable Founder President, Dr. Ashok Chauhan, sir, that he has started the Electoral Literacy Club, ELC, which has been set up at Amity University, Uttar Pradesh, Noida campus with the aim and objective to spread awareness about the electoral literacy and sensitize all the eligible voters and those who would register themselves prior to Lok Sabha elections scheduled in 2024. As formation of government in India through elections is an important and unamendable feature of the Indian Constitution as propounded by 13 judges bench of the Supreme Court in Keshwananda Bharti versus State of Kerala 1973 case. Thus, the participation of each and every eligible citizen in electoral process is not only constitutionally desirable, but it is an occasion for exercising our constitutional rights. By making the students and faculty members aware about voting rights, sensitizing towards the value of being part of democracy and participation in electoral process, etc., the ELC is believed to strengthen the constitutionally regulated political system in India. Keeping in view the significance of the deliberations to be held today during the national webinar in hybrid mode, I again welcome you all on behalf of Amity University, Uttar Pradesh. And I now request my co-host, Dr. Julie Sharma, to please take up. Thank you.
Good morning, all of you. I would now like to request Ms. Priyanka Ghai, Assistant Professor, Amity Law School, Noida, to please welcome our distinguished guests.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure and honor that I stand before you today to extend a warm welcome to this esteemed gathering of our national webinar on the topic, We the People with Right to Vote. As Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam has quoted, the power to vote is the power to shape the future. Use it wisely, for you hold the destiny of our nations in your hands. Today, I have assembled here to develop deep into intricacies of this precise right, to understand its historical significance, its present day relevance, and the challenges it faces in our diverse dynamic nations. This webinar promises to be an enlightening experience as we have with us an array of distinguished speakers and guests who will share their insights, research, and experience in the field of democracy with electoral rights. We have online and on the dais present Dr. A.P. Singh, former Dean of IP University, Professor Dr. Qazi M. Usman, Faculty of Law, Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi, Ms. Niharika Zulka, Associate Editor of Cambridge Law Review and University of Cambridge Alumni, England, Dr. Rupam Jagota, Associate Dean, GNDC Regional Campus, Head Department of Law, GNDC, Jalandhar, Professor Dr. M.P. Singh, former Vice Chancellor, NUJS, Calcutta, Minority State Studies, Kansi University, Japan, Research Professor of Law, Distinguished Scholar in Public Law and Comparative Law. We have with us on dais Shri Manoj Kumar Dubey, Member Election Commission, and Shri S.P. Tiwari, Member Election Commission. Along with that, I would also like to welcome Dr. Arvind P. Bhanu, our Chairman, Sir, Dr. D.K. Bandopadhyay, Professor Shefali Raizada Ma'am, and Dr. Aditya Tomar also. We would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed panels of speakers. Let us remember that the right to vote is not just a right, it is a privilege, it is a responsibility. It is the means through which we as citizens participate in the governance of our country. As we engage in these discussions today, let us reflect on the significance of this right and renew our commitment to upholding the principles of democracy. Once again, a warm welcome to all of you. Let us embark on this journey of knowledge, dialogue, and enlightenment as we explore the right to vote in India and its role in shaping our nation's future. Thank you and enjoy the seminar.
Thank you, Priyanka ma'am. Now I would request the dignitaries on the dais to please rise up for invocation and lighting of lamp.
Sasali sanini sanida dhani kama pana pana pani dha prasanda hari ma pa sama gama gama pani sa ma
I would now like to request Professor Dr. Arvind P. Bhanu, Additional Director, Amity Law School, Noida, to deliver the welcome address. Professor Bhanu has over 2 decades of experience in the field of law, serving in various capacities at the different institutes. His specialization is constitutional law with a doctoral degree from AMU Aligarh, with more than 130 publications in prestigious international and national journals. His research contribution is notable, including US Law Review, Edward Elgar Publications, and Scopus Index journals. Dr. Bhanu has also received Best Teachers Award and various other awards and Novra Samman for his commitment to educating underprivileged groups.
Thank you so much. First of all, I welcome Mr. S.V. Tiwari ji, Officer of Election Commission, Manoj Kumar Dubey ji, who are sitting with us. Certainly, we are very much fortunate to have with us, and they will provide you the practical aspect of this right to vote. Being a law student here, we must know what are our rights. First, we know what are our rights. And among them, you must be knowing that the voting right is our fundamental right. Fundamental right. You are a first year students and certainly crossing age of 18 and going to register yourself with the Election Commission for enrollment of your voting right. And after enrollment with the electoral roll, in India, you will become eligible to cast your vote. I would like to tell you that Part 15 of Indian Constitution, which is exclusively devoted for this election process in Constitution. 15. And Article 325 and 326 are there, which are clearly gives the declarations, and they are two declarations. One in Article 325, other one is in Article 326. And these two declarations are very much wonderful declarations. And you can understand that how I'm saying that they are the wonderful, because Article 325 clearly says that for India there shall be a general electoral roll. General electoral roll means there will be a general electoral roll where the voters are registered. Means no other electoral roll can be made out on the basis of the caste, religion, and sex address. So, under Article 325, this general electoral roll document clearly proves that we are one nation, and all citizens are one in eyes of law. Means those who are registered under this electoral roll, they are eligible to cast their vote. And let us welcome our chairman, Sahab, Bandyopadhyay ji. Now, try to understand that one more article, which is very important article for you specifically, law students. And under Article 326, there is a provision for, the criteria. The criteria is on the basis of adult suffrage. The expression is given under Article 326. That irrespective of any kind of the identity of the citizen, it is adult suffrage based upon the every citizen is entitled to have the right to cast vote. This is the point. Next. Now the next point comes, अगर आप इस कैटेगरी में आते हैं तो you are having a right to enroll yourself and can be able to cast the vote. Let me tell you, when Constitution came in existence, means in 1950, on 26 Jan, if you say so, then the citizens who attained the age of 21, they became eligible to register themselves in general electoral roll given under Article 325. Means the citizens who are 21, they are coming under the expression, the basis of adult suffrage. Then later on, let me tell you, later on in 1988, the Constitution was amended. the constitution was amended. And after making this amendment in 61st amendment, the age was got down, means it became 18. So the citizens of India, so try to understand now at present the age of the voter in India is 18. I would like to draw your attention upon the point till the time our respected AP Singh Saab is going to join. सर को नमस्कार मेरा, बहुत बहुत स्वागत सर आपका.
नमस्कार.
Now our respected Professor AP Singh ji has joined. He is a former dean, US LLS, GGS IPU, and he is expert in constitutional law. Certainly, I would like to invite him to give his words of constitutional wisdom on this occasion. So, welcome करते हैं. Thank you so much, sir. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Professor. May I start now or?
So I would like to introduce you formally to the
Please,
audience.
please.
We have amongst ourselves Dr. Amarpal Singh. Sir is a specialized in constitutional law, environmental law, and legal philosophy. The subjects that he teaches are constitutional law, environmental law, property law, jurisprudence, human rights, law and poverty, administrative law, and legal philosophy. Sir has total 37 years of experience, which involves both teaching and industry. He has written many research and publications at national and international level, and sir has also published papers in conference proceedings. Sir has also authored many books, and he has also written many edited books. Sir is Dean, US LLS, GGS IP University, Associate Proctor, GGS IP University. Sir is also a life member of Indian Institute of Law, New Delhi, and life member of Indian Institute of Public Administration, New Delhi. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation, sir. I request you to please address the gathering. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for giving me this platform. Honorable Professor Bandopadhyay sir, other dignitaries on the dais, Professor Arvind Bhanu, other distinguished scholars and colleagues, and student friends. I am, obliged that Amity University invited me to deliver a talk on this We the People with Right to Vote, a national webinar or seminar. It's happening hybrid. First of all, I put on record my sincere gratitude and thanks for inviting me. Without getting into the other things, let me come back to the subject straight away. We the people with a right to vote. Look, we live in a democracy, and democracy is substantiated by voting right. The right that is available to a citizen, whereby he gets an opportunity to affect or impact governmental decisions, which obviously happen for his sake. What we need to understand is that we the people is an expression that has been used in the preamble of the Constitution, which gives us an understanding that this constitutional mechanism has been designed for the purpose of the we the people of India. However, unless this right to vote, which is formalized in Article 326 of the Constitution, if that right is not there, this we the people of India becomes a vacuous expression, an expression which is an empty vessel having nothing. So therefore, we the people with the right to vote makes the democratic system functional, makes the whole system substantial for common man. That is one point that I wanted to make. Friends, it is a part of our general knowledge that democratic system as we understand it today must have been conceptualized thousands of years back. We have references in Western system that during Greek times, Aristotle, Plato, during those days, this idea of democracy was conceptualized. There is a lot of growing literature these days wherein we have, that in Indian system as well, we had democratic system of our own type. In fact, there are well-researched documentaries and documents now available which give us an understanding that thousands of years prior to what Westerners conceptualized in terms of democracy, we had a functional democracy. But that's part of the history. I will not get into it. The only point I'm trying to make is that either in Greek system or in Indian system, as and when this idea of democracy, which was to be operated in accordance with the wish of the people, obviously their vote was important. They would vote and express their opinion by voting in favor of this or that decision. This idea was conceptualized for small city-states, small systems where the number of the citizenry was not more than thousands or something. Maybe, like, for example, Plato talks about the ideal number of a city-state where citizens would be 4,046 or something like that. So it was known to be a very small community, which was governed according to what we generally in modern days talk about, democratic governance. When we move into, later days, particularly in modern times, and I talk about the contemporary days, where we have, the systems where the number of people is 100 crores, 140 crores. Now, the democracy that was conceptualized in Greek or ancient Indian time was a form of sort of direct democracy. 300-400 years back, when we started working on the idea of democracy once again, to be handled with reference to lakhs and crores of people, at that point of time, the idea of representative democracy emerged. Hobbes talks about it, that, the multitude by its very definition is incapable of governing itself. Therefore, for the purpose of governing the whole system for the benefit of the multitude, what we can do is that multitude can go on voting for a certain class of people, what Locke would say, as he conceptualizes the corporate state. So he gives the idea that, the giant in the sense that crores of people who he calls a sleeping giant, they select a group of people for the purpose of deciding on his behalf and then goes back to sleep, in the sense that it goes back to its own normal, earning bread for and raising family and so on and so forth. And when this giant feels that the group of people that I voted at one point of time is not functioning for my welfare, then this giant rises up, removes those people, and then accredits another set of people, what we now call political party, for the purpose of taking decisions for its benefit. This is the way democratic system, were conceptualized and started functioning. Now, in this entire process, it is something very obvious that the wish of the people expressed by way of a vote was very crucial. But the very interesting thing about this right to vote is that for a very long time, right to vote was not given to a lot of people. In fact, this universal adult franchisee, which has been formalized in our constitution under Article 326, and at several democratic systems, they have their own universal adult franchisee, is not more than 100 years old. In fact, there are systems in European systems where the people got this universal adult franchisee after Indian system, We have instances, some European systems gave voting rights to women and certain sections of the population as late as 1968, which means that, a lot of people must have fought a lot for this right to vote, which we have got, in the Constitution under Article 326. So this right to vote is not to be taken, as something given. It is something that has, a lot of people have fought for it, and it is a hard-won right that we have got. In fact, now, of course, this right is part of every single international instruments, like all kinds of instruments on human rights, and is considered to be fundamental as far as democratic governance is concerned. Now, I will take a minute in trying to appreciate as to how during last 70, 80 years, we have, started a democratic process of our own under what we call Indian Constitution, a new kind of an experiment. And I say not only new, but something that never happened across the globe, in the sense that the kind of a system in India that we have, all kinds of diversity available, and the number of people. Now, this big number of people is something which was never handled by a democratic process elsewhere across the globe. India is the only country. And therefore, when some of our leaders and scholars say that we are mother of democracy, they are not literally wrong. They are, to a very extent, they are right. Because, not only we conceptualize the idea of democracy with the right to vote, thousands of years back, but when we in the modern days got this opportunity, we started an experiment which has probably not done across the globe by anyone. Like, for example, when US started its democratic process, say in 19th century, 18th, 19th century, at that point of time, the population was few crores, say 5 or 6 crores at the max. Here, we started with literally, 40 crore people, and now we are 140 crores. So, experiment of democracy with the right to vote at this scale was unheard of. This is something that I wanted to talk about. But one thing that always, like when I was thinking about it, working on the idea, I was wondering, how do we look at it? 70 years of democratic credentials, lot of achievements that we as a democracy have been able to achieve. But nevertheless, you find that still the awareness as to voting rights amongst the people is not very, what should I say? It's not very much prevalent. Like the aware citizenry, the middle class people, they in fact 50% of them don't vote at all. And at the best of times, our voting percentage has not reached beyond 60-65%. And then, lot of other things that we keep on talking about. People don't vote or vote on, this or that incentive. So why all these things should happen? Why we should have these kind of, the voters clubs and voting awareness drives, so and so forth. Elections are around the corner, and we see that there are a lot of voting awareness campaigns done by the Election Commission and several other agencies, and there are several other efforts as well. Now, what I try to explain this phenomenon is this democratic process, as J.S. Mill talked about some few hundred years back, 150 to 200 years back, is not a finished product. It is basically a work in the making. What we need to understand is that J.S. Mill says that the price of democratic system, price of liberty is something which is consistent vigilance, consistent working up, consistently chiseling our tools of governance. That is what the price of democracy is. And so what exactly happening is that even in developed democracies like US, we have several such campaigns that keep on happening, Why do they happen there and why do they happen in India? I have a small explanation. And this reminds me some of the statements that Einstein made in 1950s about democratic process. Just quote a small line from him, a 1954 interview that he gave to some agency, wherein he talked about democratic process and said that if ever the history of 20th century would be written, it would not be written for its scientific and technological achievements. It shall be written for the reasons of democratization process that happened in 20th century. And then somebody in 21st century writes that if ever 21st century history is to be written, it shall be written for the democratic consolidation process that is happening in the 21st century. So the point that I'm trying to make by this small presentation is that formally speaking, we have achieved the idea of democracy and started experiment upon it in the formal sense of the term in 1950s itself. Some other systems got it maybe 50 years back or 100 years back with some kind of a voting right as well. But we, launched our full-fledged democratic experiment under Indian Constitution in 1950. But that was a very formal way of launching a democratic system. Democratic consolidation is underway. And these kind of programs actually are an effort to consolidate that democratic process. Let me just explain or give you one or two instances as to how institutionally we are making efforts to consolidate a democracy so that this right to vote also becomes substantial for us. So friends, if you look at some of the efforts that have been made during last 2-3 decades, for example, we have, democratized, or rather we have constitutionalized the LSG process, whereby we have now instituted things like Panchayati Raj institutions, urban local bodies, and several other agencies. Now, what all we have done is that the structures for democratic functioning have been created. But a lot of flesh and blood has got to be, invested into them for the purpose of making them substantial in the sense of substantial democracy. And therefore, my understanding is that the kind of a national seminar on We the People with the right to vote that is being organized by Amity University is a program that is going to really do a lot in advancing the cause of what I am calling consolidation of democracy. A few instances that one can think of is, say, for example, we have RTI. Now, RTI was not something, a few hundred years, few decades back. Those who have been in government services may be knowing during 90s, 80s, and 1990s, there used to be a certificate signed by the employee under Official Secrets Act, that they shall not disclose the information that comes to them incidentally while working for the organization. Now is the process where you want to obtain information in the file. An outsider can obtain that information. This is a move towards substantiating democracy, about consolidating democracy. So that's how nowadays we the people think of a democratic system where participatory governance is the objective, where the people not only vote periodically, but also participate in the day-to-day affairs, which also makes them aware as to the, the substance of the right, like voting behavior. I take this opportunity. I am confident that this particular conference is going to have a lot of brainstorming and will come up a lot of ideas whereby this democratic consolidation process will take a definite route, which is obviously the way academic systems contribute in, consolidating democracy or, contributing ideas to the democratic functioning. I take this opportunity to once again thank the organizers for inviting me to deliver this small talk, and also wish best of luck for the organizers and all the participants, that they come up some of the wonderful ideas that shall make this democratic functioning and right to vote a more substantial right and go a long way in consolidating democracy, under Indian Constitution. Thank you so much once again for inviting me. Over to you, the organizers, please.
Thank you very much, sir, for giving an insightful deliberation and explaining the importance of right to vote, which is of utmost importance for the students to know as they are now eligible to cast their vote. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, I would request our chairman, sir, Professor Dr. D.K. Bandyopadhyay, sir, our additional director and joint HOI, Professor Dr. Shefali Raizada, ma'am, Professor Dr. A.P. Bhanu, sir, to please felicitate our guest with Tulsi sapling, which is the culture and tradition of Amity University. Chairman, sir. I would request now to please welcome our guest of honor, Mr. Manoj Kumar Dubey, Member, Election Commission. I would now request to please welcome our guest of honor, Shri S.B. Tiwari, Member, Election Commission. Thank you very much.
Now, I would like to request Professor Dr. D.K. Bandyopadhyay, Chairman, Amity Law School and Chief Advisor, Founder President's Office, to deliver the opening remark. Professor Bandyopadhyay is a multifaceted scholar, academician and administrator, and also a visionary leader in India's education community. Professor Bandyopadhyay was the Dean and Acting Director of IIM Lucknow, Vice Chancellor of Guru Gobind Singh Indraprastha University, and Vice Chancellor of IMS Dehradun. Sir has received many awards for excellence in academic achievements. I request, sir, to please address the audience.
क्या हो गया? बड़ा आनंद हो रही है क्या? और निरानंद हो रही है? फ्रस्ट्रेशन हो रही है? क्या हो रही है? क्या हो रहा है? Yeah, I think most of you are from the first year, if I'm not wrong. Most of you are from first year student. And who are from AIIS? Can you raise your hand? AIIS. कोई नहीं है? Manu? Social science. Or first year student? Second year student. And from the law, all of you are from first year student. And how many of you have become eligible to become a voter? How do you know that you have become eligible for the voter? How do you know that you have become eligible for voter? Papa bole? Huh? You are now above the age of 18. Do you agree? Above the age of 18, Constitution has given you the right, the legal right. It's not a fundamental right. It's a legal right that you have the right to elect the representative of the legislative body, whether they are coming to the parliament or they are going to the state assembly. So you have a right. क्या हो गया? What is happening? What is happening? From first year itself. तो क्या करोगे जब 5th year में आओगे? Please get yourself adopted as quickly as possible of the culture of amity. But I don't see that. Are you so impatient Are you so impolite? Are you not decent persons? Have you forgotten the etiquette that you have learned from your school and the family? Is it the etiquette when somebody is speaking, then chit-chatting, then looking at somewhere, then working on the mobile? Is it the way to show respect? Now you are an adult, and there is immense amount of responsibility has been bestowed upon you by the nation, and we have hard earned it by the sacrifice of the many people. The Britishers were not willing to give the right. They only gave the right to the selected few, those who are paying tax and so on and so forth, so that they can be purchased. But when we got our freedom, our constitution was written, our first general election took place in 1951 to 52, and then we found the people representatives are coming to govern themselves. The topic that has been selected by Dr. Bhanu, we the people. Who are we the people? If you read the constitution, when you will take constitutional law, you read it. The preamble clearly tells that we the people of India. Now, who are we the people of India? It is all of us, all the voters. Now, question is coming that what is the sovereign? Who is the sovereign? It is we the people of India. And how then it is governed? It is governed that we elect the representative for going to the parliament. We elect. And it is the majority governance. The democracy talks about that. Majority's opinion to be respected. Now, we do not just, look at the person whom we are going to cast the vote. We look at the party. We look at the party propaganda. We do not look at the work or manifesto of the party that they are giving and how much committed they are to really govern us, to give us the perspective with which they are going to contest the election. So as a citizen, as a responsible citizen, all of you have the right to select and elect the representative for going to the parliament or going to the assembly. If we falter, they say that country deserves the type of governance what they give. It is we give the government. But are we really concerned about it? So what I'm trying to say through all of you, the message that I like to give it to you, that be sincere and also be dedicated to know your rights. Legal rights have been bestowed upon you, and there is a lots of responsibility associated with that. And many times we do not do it. We get many influences. There are the muscles power rule over the mental power. Muscles power rule over the actual situation for which you would like to cast the vote. There are many examples. But are you going to do that? Why this thing does not happen in America? Why this thing does not happen in UK? Why it is happening in India? For which we are responsible. Because we do not know what the rights we have. So now today, two gentlemen is sitting over here. They have come from Election Commission, and they will dwell with that, the different facets of that. Now, I like to ask you, through the question answer session, why is the right to vote is a human right? Can anybody ask this question, answer this question? It's a seminar, that's the reason I'm asking you. why the right to vote is human right? Anybody? Social science student? Law student? Because the right to vote is important for the ideology of democracy to be upheld, as it ensures that a person who is aged 18 years and above has the right to cast their vote for the candidates of their choice without any pressure. The question is coming, if there is a pressure, then there is a violation of human rights. It is also a human right since any person, regardless of their caste, creed, religion, or social status, has the right to cast their vote. Any violation of that is a violation of human rights. Now, most importantly, if we just look at it, that what are the validation that we need to do for the disqualification of voting process. The voting process, where it can be discontinued. The Constitution has laid down the procedures. Individuals who are convicted of offences committed under the Section 171E, those who will be studying a little bit when the constitutional law is being taught, that is against bribery. 171F, which deals with the impersonation or undue influence at the election, that means pressure or undue influence. And this under the Indian Penal Code are disqualified for participating in the election. And we have to know that's right. We have to go to the Election Commission and tell that this person is taking bribes or giving bribes. This person is influencing us, so that their candidature can be cancelled. And those convicted of offences under Section 105, means which deals with various electoral offences. There are many electoral offences, and if it is being proved, then their candidature can be cancelled. Or Section 135 and Section 136 of the Representation of the People Act face disqualification from elections. If an individual votes in more than one constituency, please remember, you have a voter card only for one constituency. Now, if you are using two voter cards, that means your vote can be disqualified. So some of the things must be knowing that what is polling booth, what is postal ballot. You must be knowing what is postal ballot. Do you know what is postal ballot? Do you know? Everybody knows what is postal ballot? Yes or no? You know? You know what is postal ballot? No. So postal ballot is the special case voting, which can be done by post. That's the reason it's known as postal ballot, which is not. And postal ballots are conducted for those individuals who are unable to visit a polling booth in person due to certain reasons. Maybe old age, maybe transfer to some other places. And generally, postal ballot privileges are given to members of the armed forces posted across the country and overseas, to individuals who are on election duty, such as electoral officers, policemen on duty, etc., or get this privilege of casting their postal votes. This is also equally important. That's the reason you'll be finding, whenever the election results comes up, you'll be finding that first thing they count is the number of postal votes. And from the postal votes, they try to find out the trend. And you have a right to know. You have a right to know about a candidate. Nobody can deny of giving you the information about the person or the candidate. And so, who are contesting the election, you have a right to know about them. This right has been granted to voters under Section 19 of the Indian Constitution. And this section empowers voters to seek information pertaining to the election manifesto of the candidates, their total financial worth, as also their criminal record, if any. So you, as a responsible citizen, this is the word repeatedly I'm mentioning, have a right to know about the candidate. Now there is nota. Many times the nota, nowadays it was not there, it has been incorporated. That means none of the above. You may not elect or select anybody. So you can put the nota. So you can put the stamp on the nota. Then special assistant to inform illiterate voters. If those voters who does not understand anything, So as per the guidelines of the election code, voters who are unable to cast their votes due to physical disability or other such infirmity and cannot cast their vote through postal ballot can take the assistance of an electoral officer who will record their vote. So these are some of the things, intricacies as a student, because some of you, when you do your law graduate, after some years of practice, or those students who are from the social sciences, after some years of experience, may like to contest the election. The election may be contested from municipal election to state election to the national election. So you must know all the intricacies of the voting pattern. So even the prisoners have the voting rights. You cannot deny the voting rights to the prisoners. And non-resident Indian, they have also the voting right. Now, when India get the right to vote, when India got the right to vote, that is June 1949, when the Constitution became effective in January 26, 1950. So, who gave the right to vote in India? General questions, general knowledge question. Who gave the right to vote in India? Technically, Sarojini Naidu, remember this name. Sarojini Naidu was the first to protest in 1917, where she asked women to be given the voting rights to India. And what do you mean by voting rights? The meaning of voting rights in India is that any Indian who is a citizen of the country and is aged 18 years and above can exercise the right to vote of the candidate, which has already been repeated too. Why voting is important for democracy? Voting is important to democracy since it is important to understand that in a democratic setup, candidates coming to power must be elected by the majority, which I have already mentioned. And this means that any person eligible to vote should have the freedom to cast their vote for the candidate of their choice. Candidate of their choice, without any influence or pressure, and regardless of their caste, creed, religion, region, and economic background. So when we talk about this, thing that, that is a historicity, that is a historic perspective, and this historic perspective, one must understand that it was in 1918, British government granted limited suffrage, means voting rights, suffrage, SUFFRAG, suffrage to women property holders. But this rule did not apply to British citizens in other parts of the world, despite petitions being filed in various parts of the world. In the year 1919, pleas to grant voting rights to women were presented in front of the Joint Committee of the House of the Lords and Commons. Through they were not granted the voting rights or the right to contest election, the Government of India Act of 1919 allowed the Provincial Council to decide whether women could be provided. They met stringent property, income, of educational criteria. So they met the stringent criteria, and that was in 1919. Between this year, 1919 and 1929, all of the British provinces and the princely states granted women the right to vote, and in some cases, allowed them to contest election in the local level. The first victory in this regard was in Madras, followed by the Kingdom of Travancore, now Trivandrum, and the Jalwar state in 1920. The Madras presidencies and the Bombay presidency in 1921, and the Rajkot state granted full suffrage in the year 1923, and in that year elected 2 women to serve on the Legislative Council. The role of various committees in arriving the final conclusion in 1927, the Simon Commission, and you know that great person who was murdered. Simon Commission was appointed to develop the New India Act, but because of the commission had no Indian nationalistic, recommended its boycott. The commission still discussed the extending the voting rights. They recommended reducing the voting age to 21. Now 18, this is our Indian mind. So that time it was 21. But the women's eligibility still depends on the marital status and educational background. It also provided special quota to women and ethnic groups. These recommendations are included in the Government of India Act 1935. The women who could vote before 1951 were in really very, very small in number. Though this act extended electoral eligibility, it still allowed only 2.5% of the entire women population in India. So that was the 1951 elections data they talk about. That means now today, if we just look at in 19 and if we just look at the dynamics, the way it has changed now, in the past few decades, women used to vote much less than the men, and the gap used to be roughly around 14 to 15%. But slowly the gap started narrowing down, and around the 90s, the gap remained about 10%. In 2004, the gap was 1.6%. In 29, men and women hardly had any gap. That means the equality which has been given by the Constitution, it is coming to that in the case of casting their votes. So, dear student, my only submission to you, all of you, being a member of this electoral society, that know your rights, let your neighbors know their rights through you, let the people around you know their rights of electing the right persons for the right job. Because we the people means the people of the country, but we elect our representative to go to the parliament. And the parliament is in that sense, is the sovereign. So please remember that what a horrendous responsibility is lying on your shoulder. So with these words, I will thank you all, and I will thank Dr. Bhanu, because it is it is his brainchild that we must make aware of our students. And between AISS and ALSN, this was decided that we will be doing an awareness program in the form of a seminar, because academic institution in the form of a seminar, so that the students become aware of it. And you know that Professor Bhanu, when he will teach Constitution, if he teaches you, you will be fortunate. And the type of, the way he teaches and the knowledge he possesses, and you'll be very, very pleased to listen to him. So with these words, now I have got another additional director, Dr. Shefali Rayjada. I all the time call it very dynamic lady. And only last week, Friday, we had a seminar, we had a debate competition. And it was such a grand success. So many students turned out, so many dignitaries turned out, and everything with the help of the faculty members, with the help of the coordinator, with the help of the students volunteer. Students volunteers play an important role because we like them to be involved. So in this also, I think Dr. Bhanu has involved some of you who has volunteered. And so that you learn how to organize events, how to really, what are the intricacies of the event, what are the nuances that is associated with the topic of the event. So it's a great learning. So keep it up, the spirit of learning, and we are there to help you out. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chairman, sir, for your welcome address and sharing the history of voting system in India. Due to some official commitments, Professor Dr. Balwinder Shukla, Vice Chancellor, Amity University, Uttar Pradesh, could not join us, but ma'am has sent her best wishes for the national webinar. So we all thank you very much, ma'am, for sending your best wishes.
I would now like to request Ms. Niharika Julka, Associate Editor of Cambridge Law Review, to address the gathering. Ms. Niharika Julka is a licensed advocate in India with a penchant for dispute resolution. She is concurrently an aspiring solicitor of England and Wales and holds the position of Associate Editor at the Cambridge Law Review. She is having specialization in commercial law and masters from the University of Cambridge. During her time at Cambridge, she was the treasurer of the Cambridge University Graduate Law Society and LLM representative of Darwin College, Cambridge. I request ma'am to address the gathering.
I hope I'm audible to all. First of all, I would just like to thank Bhanu sir for giving me the opportunity to present among such legal luminaries today. So I would briefly be talking about whether Indian citizens residing abroad can cast their votes in India. So when I would be talking about this topic, I would be addressing three main questions. First of all, the most obvious question, which is whether the Indian citizens are residing abroad, basically the NRIs, whether they can cast their vote in India or not. That would be more or less a yes or no question. Then second, I would move on to further state that if they are allowed to do so, what is the mechanism or the procedure through which they can attain that in this regard? And the third one would be, as was discussed in the previous speech by Professor Bandyopadhyay, whether postal ballots can now be used by NRIs or not. So I have prepared a brief presentation for everyone. I would now be sharing my screen. Okay, so coming to the first question, whether NRIs have the right to vote or not. So first of all, I would like to discuss a very interesting point. So the first thing I would like to address is that the term NRIs has not been used anywhere in the Representation of the People Act. And the term that they have used in the Act is people who are Indian citizens but are residing abroad. But on the contrast, you can see that on the website of the Election Commission of India, they have used the term NRIs. So if I were to describe very briefly what NRIs mean, non-resident Indians, even though there's no definition provided in the Act, it is a layman term would be that these are basically citizens of India who are residing abroad. Under tax law, they have been defined, and under tax law, it would mean someone who's a resident abroad, is a citizen of India, but they have been residing abroad for at least a period of 6 months. So coming to the question of whether they have a right to cast vote in India. So first of all, till the year 2010, they were not allowed to vote in the elections in India at all. It was only after amendment through the Section 20A of the Representation of People's Act that they were allowed to cast a vote in India. So now it's quite certain that they have the right to vote. We know that they have the right to vote, but what is the mechanism through which they have the right to vote? And that mechanism is that they need to be directly present in India at the polling booth where their name was registered. So it cannot be at any random place in India. It has to be where their name has been registered at the particular polling booth. As I said, it's established now that they do have a right to vote. But it's not that they have to fulfill a certain criteria that have been laid down in Section 20A of the ROPA. First of all, the ROPA only applies to Indian citizens who have been staying in a foreign country. They should not be a citizen of that foreign country. They should still be citizens of India. So even though they are residing abroad, they have to be citizens of India. They must have completed 18 years of age as on 1st January of the year. Now, when I say it has to be on the 1st January of the year, if I were to say that the elections will be conducted in 2023 in the month of April, it doesn't mean that if someone turned 18 on February 2023, that they would be eligible to take part in these elections. It has to be, they must have turned 18 in the previous year. That is what this means. Then obviously their names must not be included in the electoral roll. So besides that, it also states that they have to be absent from the ordinary residence in India, which is again a very obvious point because it says that it has to be citizens who have been residing abroad. Now, this can be in relation to anything. They might be residing abroad because of employment, because of education, or any other purposes. And it might not be a permanent residence. It can be temporary or it can be permanent. So in such a case, when all of these conditions have been fulfilled, one can make an application. The application form has been provided on the website of the Election Commission of India, and it's called the Form 6A. So this form can be formed online, and this form has to be filled by the said Indian citizen who has been residing abroad. Now, it also further says that to be registered in the voter roll of his or her constituency. Now, the constituency here will be determined by the place of residence of such person in India. So this place of residence would be the residence that has been mentioned in his or her passport. So these are a few requirements that have to be fulfilled under Section 20A to attract Section 20A, and of course that is how a person would then be able to cast a vote in India. A few things about Form 6A. If we go to the Election Commission website, it lays down a few guidelines about how Form 6A has to be filled by the certain person. So first of all, this application form, once it has been filled by the person, it has to be sent to the electoral registration officers of the constituency. And along with that, they must be submitted with a few other documents. For example, you need to submit your recent passport size photo. It has to be also self-attested. Then you also need to self-attest a few photocopies of your passport. And along with that, also a page containing a valid visa. All right. So one of the major points that I would like to highlight here is that even though the people who have been residing abroad, they do have a right to cast a vote in India, they have to be physically present in order to cast that vote. So once all of these conditions have been fulfilled, to cast the vote, they would have to come back to India and they would have to cast that vote in the particular constituency at the polling station. So along with providing your voter card, as we would normally provide our voter card, these people would also have to produce their passport, their original passport at the polling station for verifying their identity. So just to give a brief recap, we have now established that yes, NRIs do have the right to vote and they have to be physically present in order to cast that vote. So it does seem a bit of a hassle for them to first fill a form, to go through the entire process, and then to physically be present on the day of the election. So coming forward to how far have we come along? How has this facility worked so far? The statistics basically show that usually people tend to register themselves. They do fill the Form 6A, but it is very rarely so that they actually come to India to cast that vote. And the provision, it has worked out so far so that the provision has basically discouraged people because of two factors. The first factor is the factor of cost. The second factor is the cost of convenience. A lot of the people who are residing abroad, they have to come to India at the cost of their employment, at the cost of their education. They have to leave that in the middle and they have to come here to cast the vote. So what has the government done so far for them in this regard to make the process a bit convenient for them as well? So the current scenario is such that there is no voting by there is no express provision in this regard. If we were to go to the Election Commission's website, there is no express provision which says that NRIs have the right to vote by post or vote through Indian missions abroad or online voting or any other mechanisms. But in 2017, the Parliament proposed to remove this restriction. The restriction that I'm talking about here is the restriction to be physically present to cast your vote. And that restriction was imposed by Section 20A as discussed before. Now the bill that has been provided in this regard was, there was another bill that was provided in this regard to appoint a proxy. Another system was appointed by, the bill basically stated that you have the right to appoint a proxy and that proxy person would then be able to vote on your behalf. But because of obvious reasons, this bill did not go through. The reason was that it was heavily criticized. People said that it could be misused. and there was no way to verify the identity of the person who was casting the vote instead of the person who was supposed to cast the vote in this regard. So the bill, even though it was initially passed, it lapsed because of the dissolution of the Lok Sabha. But there is a recommendation that has been made for postal ballots. So this proposal was made by the Election Commission of India and is similar to a system that is already used by service providers. So I apologize for that, service voters. So as Sir also discussed previously, service voters is basically, it includes a certain class of voters, which include the members of the armed forces, a member of a force to which the provisions of the Army Act are applicable. And they have a system called the Electronically Transmitted Postal Ballot System, or the ETPBS. So this was basically, the conduct of election rules were amended to allow the service voters to exercise this system of voting. And under the system, what used to happen was that postal ballots are sent electronically to registered service voters, and they can then download they can download the ETPB, and along with that ETPB, they have to also provide a few other documents. They have to sign a declaration form and another document that they need to verify. But to register the mandate on the ballot and to send it to the returning officer of the constituency via ordinary mail. So this is the system that is already being used by the service voters, which are basically members of the armed forces. So a recommendation has been made that a similar system should also be put in place for NRIs, for people who are residing abroad, but they are still Indian citizens. So this post will include an attested declaration form, and this is signed by the voter in the presence of an appointed senior officer who attests it. So this basically, in a way, it verifies that by having this mechanism of having someone to testify, they basically make the system a bit more, to get a bit more clarity and a bit more accountability in this regard. So that is how the system has been working so far. So the postal ballots, this is a proposition proposal that already has been made and is almost on its way through to completion at this point. I have provided a link here, and if we go over to this link, now we can actually see an option which is called an overseas elector. Although you cannot click on that option because it doesn't allow you to go through to a different page, it does allow you to see that an option has been added by the Election Commission there. And so it is quite, so this process is almost through completion. And currently the Center of Development of Advanced Commuting is doing a pilot project to just test the feasibility of the entire system. And once this is through to completion, NRIs can use this gateway of the Government of India to vote. So this has also been termed as remote voting, and I think it is one of the very great, very good mechanisms that the government has come up with, because this would also help the NRIs to a great extent to vote, and also to reduce a lot of the costs that they would initially have to incur in the absence of such a system. Coming to the other means, so now that we've discussed that that there initially was a system for and that system still exists till the time the postal ballots for the NRIs are through to its completion, the system still remains the same about the fact that they have to be physically present. But there are a few other means, as discussed before. Proxy voting initially was there was a bill that was passed to permit NRIs to vote by proxy. But in this case, the bill had lapsed, and there were a lot of concerns that were raised about the misuse of NRIs. The misuse of NRIs is vote by proxy voting. So this did not go through. Another thing that was raised before the parliament was internet voting. Now, this was voting via internet, And the government had currently rejected both the proposals on the ground that it may be difficult to ascertain the actual identity of the voters. And because of these reasons, a couple of other countries have also stayed clear of this program. And besides this, there was another system of voting that was proposed, and that was voting through international Indian embassies. But this was also rejected because it would create a complexity of jurisdiction, and it would also raise a lot of security concerns. And because of this, situation was also because of this form of voting was also rejected by the authorities. So coming to the end of it, all the three questions that we have now been answered. The first is that NRIs, just to give a recap of what we've learned so far, that NRIs do have a right to vote. They have a right to cast their vote in India. And although initially we had a system where their physical presence was required before India and to cast their votes, but not anymore. A new system has been proposed in the form of postal ballots, and more guidelines have still ought to be released in regard to how the postal ballots ought to work out. But besides that, I think the government has taken a good step in this direction, and we can see that they have included a system in this regard on their website, and it is almost through its completion. It's just going through a trial run at the time. And that's about it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am, for your insightful presentation. Now, I would like to request Professor Dr. Qazi Mohammed Usman, Professor Jamia Millia Islamia, to address the gathering. Professor Usman has over 2 decades of teaching and research experience. He has many books and articles to his credit. Professor Usman has also presented many papers in renowned national and international journals. I request, sir, to please address the gathering.
Okay, thank you very much. Very good afternoon to all ladies and gentlemen, directors of MITs and Vice Chancellor and other dignitaries. Uh, you know, today we have been gathered here to discuss something which is very crucial topic, and that is very lifeblood of democracy. That is right to vote. So voting is a fundamental pillars of the democracy that ensures that the government remains responsive, representative, and accountable to the people at large. The right to vote, and more importantly, the exercise of franchise by the eligible citizen is at the heart of every democracy. By casting their ballots, citizens express their political will and actively participate in the democratic process. And high voter turnout strengthens the legitimacy of a democratic process, ensuring that the government is truly representative of the people's will. And in the last Lok Sabha election, which was held in 2019, the voter turnout that has reached a record high of approximately 67.11% across 542 constituencies. Here, the right to vote is a constitutional right. It has been guaranteed under Article 326 of the Indian Constitution. And every citizen of India has to attain the age of 18 years to exercise this particular right. And full voting right that were also guaranteed to the citizen of India under the concept of universal suffrage in 1950. And apart from that, Article 21 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights that also states that everyone has a right to take part in the government of his or her country, either directly or through freely chosen representative. The principle of universal adult franchise means that all the citizens of India have the right to vote without any discrimination based on sex, caste, creed, race, or religion. The only exception is the age barrier. And that was before 1988, that was 21 years. But in 1988, the 16th Amendment was passed that lowered the voting age of the election to the Lok Sabha and also to the legislative assemblies of the states from 21 to 18 years. And there are certain ways where the person can exercise the right to vote, like by going to the polling booth and also through postal ballots. That means casting a vote through post. This method is generally used for the people in the armed force, electoral officers on the duty, and other such person. Now, the people above the age of 80 years, they can also cast their vote through postal ballot. And so far as the legal framework for the protection of the right that has been guaranteed in Article 326, that grants the right to vote as a fundamental right to all the citizens above the age of 18 years. And Article 324 provides for the establishment of Election Commission of India for conducting free and fair election. Representation of People Act 1950 and its amendment by lay down the criteria for the qualification and disqualification for being a voter and a candidate for election. It also contains the provisions regarding electoral rules, electoral offences, and delimitation of the constituencies. And through the legal frameworks, certain rights have been given to the voters, like right to know. That means that the citizens or the registered voters have the right to vote, to be informed about the candidates who are contesting elections. This makes them choose easily and wisely. It deals with information like assets and liabilities, financial status, criminal record, if any, and age about the candidate. That form part of the Article 19 of the Constitution. And the Supreme Court in the case Union of India versus Association for Democratic Reforms 2002 held that declaring of criminal antecedents, assets, educational background by the candidate contesting election is mandatory. And any citizen of India can obtain the copies of the nomination form and the affidavits filed by any candidates from the returning officer, and it shall not be refused. And in the case Bhim Rao, Baswant Rao Patil versus K. Madan Mohan Rao and others, here the Supreme Court, the case of 2023, the Supreme Court observed that voter has a right to know full background of the candidate, and that is right to vote, which is based on the informed choice. That is very much crucial to the democracy. And being a citizen of India, every voter is also entitled to know that all the political parties should come under the purview of the Right to Information Act. That's why the political parties should be brought under RTI Act. In October 29th, 2010, an RTI was filed by Association for Democratic Reforms to sort the donations and contribution received by 6 political parties. These political parties are BJP, Indian National Congress, BSP, NCP, CPI, and CPI-M. And no party except CBI furnished the information. Then the complaint was filed in March 2011, that with the CIC, that is on the basis of above replies. Then in June 3rd, 2013, the landmark judgment delivered by the full bench of CIC, that bringing all the 6 parties under RTI. And why the political parties should come under the RTI Act, it has been argued on the behalf of the ADR, Association for Democratic Reforms. Number one, political parties are substantially financed by the central government because number one, allotment of the land in Delhi and other state capital to those political parties. Number two, accommodation bungalows at concessional rentals which have to be given to the political parties. Then total tax exemptions under section 13A of the Indian Income Tax Act. Then states funding on the electoral rolls during the elections. And these political parties shall also be given the free airtime on Doordarshan and All India Radio. So that is why these political parties are substantially financed by the central government, and that they should come within the purview of the RTI Act. Second reason is that these political parties, they are having the public character because the political parties are the lifeblood of our polities, and they are unique institutions. And in spite of being non-governmental, they come to wield directly or indirectly influence on the exercise of the government power. And the preamble of the RTI Act also says that aims to create an informed citizenry and to contain election and to hold the government and their instrumentalities which is accountable to the government. Then there is also constitutional provisions why the political party should come under the RTI Act, because there is a requirement for the registration of the political parties under section 29A of the Representation of People Act. That is a central legislation. Second, there is a filing of election expense and contribution, that if any contribution, the value of 20,000 and above from any person or a group of the person or company, they are required to be intimated to the Election Commission of India under section 29C of the Representation of the People Act. And there is a Election Commissioner of India's superintendence under Article 324 of the Constitution of India, where the ECI also vested with the authority to suspend or withdraw recognition of a political party in certain contingencies. And it was contended that tax exemptions are given to the non-profit, non-governmental organization across the country. So these exemptions shall also be given to the political parties. But the submission is that there is a great difference between the tax exemptions given to the charitable and non-profit, non-government organization and that given given to the political parties. The exemptions given to the non-profit, non-governmental organization is strictly conditional. Full or part exemption is given to these organizations only if they pursue the objectives which has been outlined in their respective charters, be it a memorandum of or bylaws of societies or in the trust deed in case they are private trust. There are other strict conditions laid down in the Income Tax Act which the SSC must comply with. And ordinary citizen does not have direct access to the government except through his elected representative and cannot hope to be the part of the government without being a member of the political parties. And these political parties, they are unique institutions of the modern constitutional state. They are essentially political institutions, and they are their uniqueness lies in the fact that in spite of being non-governmental, they come to wield or directly or indirectly influence exercise of the governmental power. So it would be odd to argue that transparency is good for all the state organ, but not so good for the political parties, which in reality control all the vital organ of the state. And political parties are important political institutions and can play a critical role in heralding transparency in the public life. Political parties continuously perform public functions which define parameters of the governance and socio-economic development of any country. So people of India must know the source of expenditure incurred by political parties and by the candidates in the process of the election. So finally, CIC hold that Indian National Congress, BJP, CPIM, CPI, NCP and BSP have been substantially financed by the central government. Under Section 2, Clause S, Subclause 2 of the RTI Act, the role being played by these political parties in our democratic setup and the nature of duties performed by them also points towards the public character, bringing them in the ambit of RTI Act. But none of the parties complied with the order. Then ADR, Association for Democratic Reform, made various appeals to the CIC to impose fines on the political parties for non-compliance of the order. And in November, CIC passed an interim order ordering 6 political parties to appear before the commission for the hearing for non-compliance of the order. But on March 2015, the CIC held that RTI does not provide the commission with ample power to deal with the cases of contempt and non-compliance. Then in 2015, ADR filed a PIL in the Supreme Court to bring political parties under RTI. And to counter, the government of India has filed its affidavit stating that they do not come under the RTI Act. And the matter is listed and that is pending before the Supreme Court. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for your detailed enumeration. We would welcome our guest of honor, Professor Dr. Rupam Jagota, Associate Dean, AANSW, JNDU, Regional Campus, Head Department of Laws, GNDU, RC Jalandhar. Ma'am is a BA Honours, Gold Medalist in Political Science, LLB, LLM, NET UGC, and PhD in Law. Ma'am has 65 publications in UGC Care and Thomson Reuters, edited books and journals to her credit. Ma'am has also authored 2 books, including a book on ADR. Ma'am has participated in innumerable conferences, seminars, workshops, webinars, and presented papers, chaired sessions, and delivered lectures on Swayam in criminal law. Ma'am's specialization is jurisprudence, criminal law, gender law, and constitutional law. Ma'am has also guided research scholars, students pursuing doctorate. 3 PhDs have been awarded and 6 are in process of final submission. We welcome you, ma'am. Please address the gathering. Due to a technical glitch, Dr. Rupam Jagota ma'am could not join us. So we would now invite our next guest of honor, Professor Dr. MP Singh, sir.
I would now like to request guest of honor, Professor Dr. MP Singh, former Vice Chancellor, NUGS Kolkata, former Chairman, Judicial Academy, to address the audience. Professor Dr. MP Singh is former Chancellor, Central University of Haryana, and Chair Professor, Center for Comparative Law, NLU, Delhi. He was also Vice Chancellor of National University of Juridical Science, Kolkata. Professor MP Singh has also been a fellow and visiting professor at several institutions and universities of international repute, such as University of Heidelberg, Max Planck Institute of Comparative Public Law and International Law, National University of Singapore, to name a few. His publications include over 100 papers in national and international legal journals and edited work, and 10 books, including German Administrative Law in Common Law Perspective, Freedom of Trade and Commerce in India, Comparative Constitutional Law, Shukla's Constitution of Law, Shukla's Constitution of India. We welcome you, sir, to address the gathering.
Thank you, ma'am. I don't think I am visible in it, but that doesn't matter. But can you hear me? Hello? Am I audible?
Yes, so we can hear you. So we are not able to see the screen. You are not visible.
No, I have unmuted. I have unmuted.
Yes, so you are audible, but you are not visible.
Doesn't matter.
Yes, sir.
I'm not someone who needs to be seen. Actually, I have been quite unwell.
Your
for
camera is
some
not open. Please open the camera.
So
जहां भी आपको वीडियो को नजर आते हैं वहां से आप उसको ओपन कर दीजिए. वहां देखिए क्रॉस लिखा होगा, वो क्रॉस को जरा हटा दीजिए. स्टार्ट वीडियो जहां लिखा है उसमें क्रॉस क्रॉस है, उसको हटा दीजिए. आईटी वाले कौन है? ये दूसरे को बोलो. Somebody else.
hello.
Yes, sir.
मैं सुन नहीं पा रहा आपको ठीक से.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
तो
मैम सर का कैमरा ओपन है
कोई
लेकिन
नहीं.
नेटवर्क की
Doesn't
प्रॉब्लम.
matter. If you can't see me, it's all right.
We are not.
But so long as you can hear me, that's okay.
Yes, sir.
Now, I was not quite sure exactly what the topic for the discussion today is, and therefore I have not specifically prepared anything on the Election Commission, except that Election Commission is a separate institution under the Constitution, given in a separate part of the Constitution. That is part 15 of the Constitution, in which Election Commission is given. Now, with respect to Election Commission, its work was from the very beginning being actually praised, the way the election commissioners in the past conducted the elections. But when Mr. Session was appointed as the election commissioner, he started issuing certain orders which the government did not like, and ultimately, therefore, a decision had to be taken that the election commission must be made a multi-member body. And it is because of that that the election commission was created with three persons, the chief election officer and the two other members along with him. So so far as Session was concerned, he did not even care for those two other members, even though they had been appointed. But most of the decisions he took individually. It was this issue which has recently come before the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court actually had to determine whether the election commissioners can be appointed in any manner by the government, or they have to be actually provided under a particular setup by which they have to be actually appointed. And it is this aspect which the Supreme Court recently clarified. It said that so far as the Parliament is concerned, it is required to make a law for that purpose as to how the selection of the election commissioners will be made. And after that, only the election commissions will be appointed. Now, this law actually has not yet been passed, but Parliament has now introduced, in Parliament, the government has now introduced a bill in which the Chief Justice of India was considered to be a member of this three-member body, in which Prime Minister, the Chief Justice of India, and one more member of this, which the President could select. These three members had to be there for the purpose of appointing these persons. The bill which has been now introduced in Parliament, that does not very clearly mention so far as the Chief Justice of India is concerned. It mentions Prime Minister, it mentions someone who would be the nominee of the Prime Minister, and a third member also will be a nominee of the Prime Minister. It is this aspect actually which is causing some consternation, and we may not be sure as to what ultimately Parliament is going to decide. The present position, therefore, remains that there are three election commissioners. Initially, there were only one, and those who went so long as there was only one, they did very marvelous work. It's only the case of session that the problems actually arose. So this is what I have to only say about it, that a bill is pending in the Supreme Court in which the Chief Justice of India has been excluded from the list of the persons which the Supreme Court had suggested to be the members of that body. That is those who will select the election commissioners. There have been some doubts, or at least something that the government has the full freedom to appoint anyone at the moment as a member of the election commission, in which, of course, definitely there is a possibility that some these members may be suspected of helping the government rather than helping the other parties, and that vitiates the elections of the government and of the people. And for that reason, it is necessary that a body should be created by Parliament for the purpose of selection of the members, and this is what the government ultimately has done, that it has not included the Chief Justice of India in that group of 3 persons who have to be who have to actually select the persons for the purpose of being members of the Election Commission. There is no only thing I have to say. If there are any questions, I may perhaps be able to answer them. Otherwise, I may be excused for my ignorance on this area, which I have not pursued very seriously in my career as a law teacher. Though, of course, as a student of constitutional law, I am expected to know every part of the constitution, every article of the constitution, and everything that is happening under the constitution. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, anybody, I will be very happy to ask.
So there are no questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
The next guest of honor, Professor Dr. Rupam Jagota, ma'am. Ma'am. Because of a technical difficulty, Dr. Rupam Jagota ma'am is also unable to join us. She will join us shortly. So now I would request our next guest of honor, Professor Shri Manoj Kumar Dubey, Member Election Commission, to please address the gathering. And before the publication of the voters list, the complaints received from the voters from various portals are resolved by his team under the leadership of Mr. Manoj Kumar Dubey. Sir's team does all the main tasks to spread the objective of systematic voters' education and electoral participation in his constituency. Mr. Manoj Dubey's team continuously communicates with residents' welfare associations and flat owners' association for this work, and on the basis of suggestions received from them include voter awareness campaign. In order to increase the voting percentage and to bring the youth forward in this matter, Dubey sir's team organizes various activities from time to time in collaboration with RWA and Flat Owners Association to ensure maximum participation of all of us in the auspicious festival of democracy. I would request Dubey sir to please address the gathering.
Thank you, ma'am. Respected dignitaries on the dais, Professor T.K. Bandyopadhyay, Professor Arvind P. Bhanu, Professor Shefali Raizada, and the various esteemed member who is connected from online and offline mode, and Ms. Priyanka Ghai and Shilpa Mehrotra, who is the convener of this program. First of all, I would like to pay my words of thanks to giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts on we the people with right to vote. My dear students, we have traveled from 1892 to various acts, 1819 Government of India Act, 1835 Government of India Act. Then after the Constitution, we have adopted universal adult franchisee. आखिर ये यूनिवर्सल एडल्ट फ्रेंचाइजी है क्या? हम अपने संविधान को देखते हैं तो संविधान की प्रस्तावना की सबसे पहली लाइन है, हम भारत के लोग। ये कौन है हम भारत के लोग? हम वही भारत के लोग हैं जो कॉलेज की कैंटीन से लेके बस तक और डाइनिंग टेबल से लेके सिस्टम की बात करते हैं, लेकिन जब जिम्मेदारी की बात आती है, जिस दिन इलेक्शन होता है, उस दिन हमारी प्रायोरिटी लिस्ट में सबसे पीछे होता है कास्टिंग अवर वोट। जिस तरीके से मैं देख रहा था सुबह जब मैं आया, तो आगे की जितनी भी रोज थी वो सब फिल थी, वो धीरे 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 पीछे की तरफ जो सेंट्रॉइड है इसका वो शिफ्ट हो गया। ऐसा ही होता है। हमने कभी ये सोचा नहीं कि आर्टिकल 324 में ऐसा क्या था कि इलेक्शन कमीशन ऑफ इंडिया को एक इंडिपेंडेंट बॉडी बनाया गया। आप किसी भी अधिकार की बात करें, किसी भी एक्ट की बात करें, वो सारे एक्ट हम भारत के लोगों से ही पोषित होते हैं और हमसे ही पल्लवित होते हैं। (1892) से लेके 1819, 1835, जैसा कि प्रोफेसर बंदोपाध्याय ने बताया कि 1819 से पहले महिलाओं को वोट डालने का अधिकार भी नहीं था। तो हमारे एंसेस्टर्स ने इस चीज के लिए बड़ी लड़ाई लड़ी है और हमारी प्रायोरिटीज में, हमारी प्राथमिकताओं में क्या ये चीजें हैं? ये चीजें इससे पता चलता है कि आज हम एक सेमिनार में बैठे हैं, चर्चा कर रहे हैं, जो कुछ बच्चे ऐसे हैं जो नींद में सो रहे हैं, कि हम कितने सीरियस हैं इन चीजों को लेके। आप जिस शहर में रहते हैं, 94% लिटरेसी रेट एज पर द सेंसस 2011, बट जब कास्टिंग परसेंटेज की बात आती है तो हमारे यहाँ 50 to 55%। 741728 ये आज की तारीख तक, मॉर्निंग तक का डेटा है, जिस नोएडा विधानसभा में आप लोग बैठे हैं। लेकिन जब कास्टिंग परसेंटेज जब होता है तो ये बहुत कम है। कारण कि 18 to 40 ईयर्स, 18 वर्ष से लेके 40 वर्ष तक के जो 40% लोग हैं वो चर्चा तो करते हैं, लेकिन जब चीजों को समझना है, अपना वोट डालना है, वो उस सिस्टम के तहत जिसको हमें प्राप्त करने में वर्षों लग गए, हम चर्चा भी नहीं करना चाहते। सिस्टम वैसा ही होता है जैसे हम होते हैं। क्यों? क्योंकि अगर हमने सिस्टम को नहीं चुना है तो अप्रत्यक्ष रूप से हमने सिस्टम को चुना है। मैं आपके साथ कुछ डेटा शेयर करना चाहूंगा कि समय के साथ टेक्नोलॉजी का इन्वॉल्वमेंट हुआ। हम सबसे पहले जो वोटर लिस्ट थी, वोटर लिस्ट में फोटोग्राफ्स आए, मतदाता पहचान पत्र आए। मैं सेक्टर 19 इलेक्शन ऑफिस में बैठता हूं। आप जैसे बहुत सारे यंग यूथ जब मेरे पास आते हैं तो मैं उनसे क्यूरियसली एक प्रश्न पूछता हूं कि आपको वोटर आईडी कार्ड क्यों चाहिए? 10 में से किसी एक का आंसर होता है कि मुझे उस दिन अपना वोट डालना है। और 9 क्या कहते हैं? मैं यूथ की बात कर रहा हूं, सर हमें ना पासपोर्ट अप्लाई करना है। तो हमारे लिए जो वोटर आईडी कार्ड है वो आइडेंटिटी का कार्य कर रहा है। ये वो नहीं बता रहा कि ये संविधान ने हमें वो पहचान पत्र दिया है। ये सारी ताकत उस सिस्टम से मिली है जिस सिस्टम के लिए हमने लड़ाइयां लड़ी। आप सबके पास सेल फोन है, अपने हाथ में अभी आपसे पूछूंगा कि कितने बच्चों के फोन में वोटर हेल्पलाइन ऐप है? प्लीज रेज योर हैंड्स। कितने बच्चों के मोबाइल में वोटर हेल्पलाइन ऐप है? हम में से किसी ने हमें नहीं सिखाया कि इंस्टाग्राम कैसे यूज करना है, फेसबुक कैसे यूज करना है, लेकिन हम सब सीख गए, सबके सेलफोन्स में है। वोटर हेल्पलाइन ऐप आपको इतना पावर करता है कि आप घर बैठे अपने मोबाइल से अपना नाम वोटर लिस्ट में ऐड करने के लिए थ्रू द फॉर्म 6 एप्लीकेशन सबमिट कर सकते हैं। डिलीशन थ्रू द फॉर्म 7 सबमिट कर सकते हैं। एंड इफ वी आर मूविंग फ्रॉम वन प्लेस टू अनदर, there are 4,123 assembly constituencies in India. जैसे आप एक जगह से जब दूसरी जगह जाते थे तो मोबाइल नंबर पोर्टेबिलिटी थी। अब क्या है कि आप भारत के किसी भी राज्य में शिफ्ट हो जाइए, आपका वोटर आईडी कार्ड वैसे वैसे मूव करता रहेगा जैसे वैसे आप मूव करते हैं थ्रू द फॉर्म 8। और आपको कहीं नहीं जाना, केवल अपने सेलफोन में फॉर्म 8 फिल करना है। हम टेक्नोलॉजी को लेके अपडेटेड तो हैं, अधिकारों को लेके सहज भी हैं, जागरूक भी हैं, लेकिन जब उत्तरदायित्व की बात आती है, तो रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी की जब बात आती है, तब हम सबसे पीछे हो जाते हैं। मैं आपके साथ कुछ डेटा है जिसको मैं शेयर करना चाहूंगा। इन नोएडा, this is 61 assembly constituency, Noida. There is 7,41,784 total voters. और जब कोई एक नई एप्लीकेशन हमारे पास आती है कि हमें पर्टिकुलर इस पर्सन का नाम वोटर लिस्ट में ऐड करना है, तो उसको प्रोसेस करने के लिए there is an officer that is called as Electoral Registration Officer, ERO. For the help of ERO, there are several AEROs, supervisors, booth level officers, जो डोर टू डोर जाके आपके एप्लीकेशंस को चेक करते हैं, वेरीफाई करते हैं कि आप वहां रहते हैं या नहीं रहते। नोएडा एक इलेक्ट्रॉनिक सिटी, यहां माइग्रेंट्स बहुत हैं। 6 महीने लोग यहां रहते हैं, 6 महीने लोग चेंज हो जाते हैं। बहुत डाइवर्सिटी है यहाँ पे, उनके एड्रेसेस चेंज होते हैं। आप सोचिए कि कितना चैलेंजिंग टास्क है कि लोगों को उनके मूवमेंट के अकॉर्डिंग वोटर लिस्ट में शिफ्ट करना, जिससे कि वो जब जिस दिन इलेक्शन डे हो जाके अपना नाम मतदाता सूची में देखें, वोटर लिस्ट में देखें और अपना वोट डालें। तो हमारी सबसे पहली प्राथमिकता, प्रायोरिटी क्या बनती है कि हम जिस दिन इलेक्शन डे हो उस दिन जाएं और सबसे पहले अपना वोट कास्ट करें। हमारे पास 714 बूथ लेवल ऑफिसर्स हैं, 43 सुपरवाइजर्स हैं, जो इस आप जब किसी भी चीज की प्लानिंग करते हैं, एक छोटे से छोटा आपको बर्थडे सेलिब्रेट करना हो, आप क्या करते हैं? आप सबसे पहले एक लिस्ट तैयार करते हैं कि मुझे इनको बुलाना है और उसके अकॉर्डिंग अपनी प्लानिंग करते हैं। तो सबसे मजबूत लोकतंत्र को मजबूत करने के लिए बच्चों सबसे पहली सीढ़ी है कि उसकी जो इलेक्शन वोटर लिस्ट है वो बिल्कुल फ्रेश हो, बिल्कुल अनबाइज्ड हो, निष्पक्ष हो, ट्रांसपेरेंट हो। ये सबसे पहला काम। क्यों? क्योंकि अगर वो निष्पक्ष नहीं होगी तो हमारी पारदर्शी जो इलेक्शन प्रोसेस है वो बाइज्ड हो जाएगी। निरंतर इलेक्शन कमीशन ऑफ इंडिया के सुपरविजन में डिफरेंट स्टेट्स के सीईओ निरंतर इस प्रोसेस में लगे रहते हैं। हम और आप समझते हैं कि केवल इलेक्शन का काम उस वर्ष होता है जिस वर्ष इलेक्शन होता है, ऐसा नहीं। इट्स अ कंटिन्यूअस प्रोसेस, और एक ऐसी कंटिन्यूअस प्रोसेस जिसमें हम भारत के लोग अपने लिए जनता के प्रति, जनता के द्वारा, तो उसको कौन एम्पावर्ड कर रहा है? यूथ, यंग वोटर्स, मतदाता। हाई राइज सोसाइटीज हैं यहाँ पे। जब कास्टिंग परसेंटेज बहुत कम हुआ तो इलेक्शन कमीशन ऑफ इंडिया की तरफ से एक प्रोग्राम चलाया गया, स्वीप। आप में से कोई भी जो यहाँ बैठा है मेरी बात सुन रहा है, क्या स्वीप क्या है या इसके बारे में कभी सुना हो, जाना हो? प्लीज रेज योर हैंड्स। व्हाट इज स्वीप? ये हमारे लिए ही बनाया गया। आई थिंक मैं लॉ ग्रेजुएट्स फर्स्ट ईयर और सोशल साइंस स्टूडेंट से बात कर रहा हूं। स्वीप, सिस्टमैटिक वोटर एजुकेशन एंड इलेक्टोरल पार्टिसिपेशन, जिसके लिए हम वेलफेयर एसोसिएशंस के साथ, फ्लैट ऑनर एसोसिएशंस के साथ कैंपेन ड्राइव चलाते हैं कि लोग अवेयर हों, उनका वोट डालना कितना जरूरी है, लोकतंत्र के लिए, मजबूत लोकतंत्र के लिए उनको जागरूक करें और कास्टिंग परसेंटेज को बढ़ाएं। इसी के साथ मैं आपको एक और सूचना, एक इंफॉर्मेशन शेयर करना चाहूंगा कि आप में से मुझे ये जान के बहुत अच्छा लगा, सुबह प्रोफेसर भानु ने मुझे बताया कि हमारे यहाँ इलेक्टोरल लिटरेसी क्लब है। आप में से कितने लोग ऐसे हैं जिनके नाम वोटर लिस्ट में है, चाहे वो कहीं भी रहते हैं? प्लीज रेज योर हैंड्स कि आपके वोटर आईडी कार्ड बने हैं, प्लीज। आपके मैनेजमेंट से मिलके हम यहाँ एक कैंपेन या ड्राइव चलाएंगे। आप चाहें तो अपने मोबाइल में ऐप डाउनलोड करके भी कर सकते हैं। और मैं रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा, आप सबसे निवेदन करूंगा कि जब भी इलेक्शंस होगा आप सब एटलीस्ट अपना वोट तो डालेंगे। अपने घर में, अपने परिवार में ऐसा कोई व्यक्ति जो इच्छुक नहीं है, कम से कम एक व्यक्ति को उसको पोलिंग बूथ पर जरूर लेके जाएंगे। क्यों? क्योंकि ये हमारी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है। और ये आती कहां से है? वी द पीपल विद राइट टू वोट। बस आप सबको बहुत ज्यादा बोर नहीं करूंगा मैं। थैंक यू वेरी मच। थैंक यू मैम।
Thank you very much, Dubey sir, for sharing the basics of Noida constituency and also telling the students importance of voting and voters list. Next, we have our guest of honor, Professor Dr. Rupam Jagota, Associate Dean, AANSW, GNDU Regional Campus, Head Department of Laws, GNDU RC Jalandhar. Ma'am is BA in Honors, Gold Medalist in Political Science, LLB, LLM, NET UGC and PhD in Law. Ma'am has 65 publications in UGC Care and Thomson Reuters and edited books and journals to her credit. Ma'am has also authored 2 books, including a book on ADR. Ma'am has participated in innumerable conferences, seminars, workshops, webinars, and presented papers, chaired sessions, and delivered lectures on Swayam in criminal law. Ma'am's specialization is in jurisprudence, criminal law, gender laws, and constitutional law. Ma'am has also guided research scholars and students pursuing doctorate. 3 PhDs have been awarded and 6 are in the process of final completion. We welcome you, ma'am. Please address the gathering. Thank you for joining us.
Very good afternoon to all of you. Thank you for the brief profile of mine that has been shared by you. I will be sharing my views on the topics, We the People, Right to Vote. I'm very thankful to 2 minutes. I will be very thankful to the faculty of Amity, the head dean of Amity, for extending me the invitation to share my opinion on this topic. Since lot has been deliberated upon by this August gathering since morning, I will be very, very brief, and I will be only coming to the issues which I feel personally are very important when we talk about we the people, the right to vote. If I start with we, the preamble to the Constitution emphasizes that we the people of India solemnly pledge to identify, recognize that we are a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. And being a democracy, all citizens, irrespective of the disparities, the discriminations, gender classifications, have an ability and the right to vote. So voting is an expression of the choice of the citizens who are a part of the life, indispensable requirement to shape a nation, its destiny. By giving the right to the people to choose whom they want to be governed by. Now, Thomas Jefferson once rightly remarked that in his Declaration of Independence, that governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. So, right to vote is the voice of the people, the will of the people, and it constitutes the basis of the authority of the government. Will is expressed through the elections, and in India, we are holding periodic elections and conducting elections through the Election Commission, empowering every citizen to exercise his right to vote if he is a registered voter, having attained the age of 18 years through a secret ballot. Article 324 to the Constitution, giving the power of superintendence, direction and control to the Election Commission, has also vested the power with the Election Commission to ensure fair conduct of elections. 326 empowers the Election Commission to conduct elections to the House of the People, the legislative assemblies, through adult suffrage. So, right to vote is a basic human right. It is not a privilege. Even the UN Declaration on Human Rights, the international component on the civil and political rights, are emphasizing on the concept of right to vote. We celebrated the 13th National Voters' Day on 25th of January 2023 with the theme, Nothing Like Voting, I Vote for Sure. So this emphasizes the pledge of the nation that we are a democracy and each individual expresses his feelings and aspirations to participate in the election process. By registering itself, we are giving alternatives of online voter registration, email voting, early voting, even voting for the disabled. Judiciary is the centennial of democracy, and it has strengthened the hand of democracy by ensuring that whenever there is a litigation, it is deciding in the interest of the people and the nation at large. Recently, the Supreme Court rejected the plea against the voting machines in the Abhiram case versus CD Comchin, emphasizing that merely challenging the system is not good for a contestant who has lost.
Ma'am, your mic is muted. Kindly unmute. Ma'am,
Deposit the fine within the period of 4 weeks to the Supreme Court Group Non-Clerical Employees Welfare Association in an attempt to ensure the sensitization of the society, of the electorate, sensitization of the participants, the contestants to the election is a necessity. We have been using every possible opportunities of educating the masses by sensitizing them through media, distribution of pamphlets, through nukkad nataks, through documentaries, so that people understand their right and their value, which is inherent to them, that they are the people who make up for the voting system of the country. But despite a large plethora of case laws, remedies, alternatives which have been initiated by the Election Commission, the attempt to connect the population by vesting them with the right to vote, the power to control the button, to determine the positive, healthy setup of a democracy is still a myth. Only 50% of the population casted their right to exercise their right to vote. The primary reason for this reluctant approach is that my vote, does it matter? I am not concerned who wins. I'm more concerned about my bread and butter. I have nothing to do, and they have nothing to do with my welfare. I don't like any candidate, so I can exercise my vote, or I may not exercise my vote. If I exercise, I can press the nota button. Then candidate who of all parties, they are selling and bartering the votes. alluring packages are being offered at the time of the elections. So despite having a well coordinated system where we are making an attempt to check the wrong and corrupt practices, this continues to be the prevailing system. Then to some, it is a sheer wastage of time, energy, and money. Corrupt practices are ruling the roost in every election, and that is the reason why educated community prefer not to go and cast their vote or exercise their right to vote. Further, most of the government employees, particularly working as teachers, as lecturers, professors, or the bank employees, they are usually assigned the election duties. People already employed are paid for the duty. There can be an alternative that we have so much of the population who can be adjusted for this job or allocated and recruited, particularly by training them to conduct the elections, since the process is very, very tedious. Conducting an election is one aspect. Conclusion of the election, distribution of the material and recollection of the material after the voting is concluded is a very, very long, tedious process, which takes a long period of time. And that is the reason why every employee makes an attempt to submit a medical when he comes to know that he has been picked up for the election duty. People having and earning the 7th pay commission are not interested in the meager amount which is being given, but they want to avoid the hassle that they have to face over there once election is over. Picking up the machines, depositing the machines, every material given by the election commission and redepositing it back by counting each and everything, carrying them to the buses, to the polling stations and back. That makes people run away from the system. So we are living in a modern, technologically advanced world. Effort need to be made to make this process, the after process of election, more smooth, so that people's faith in this institution can be restored and democracy prospers. Most of the employees who are on election duty, given an alternative of casting the vote earlier on paper, but majority of them do not cast the vote for a very simple reason that all those people who cast the vote in this methodology, the counting process is also different. For them, another huge lot of papers have to be filled, documented, and then they have to be deposited separately. So they believe that let's do one part of the job and the other part is left aside. So this community also do not cast their votes at the election. So the ideology is that if we are going for equal distribution, we are here for simplification of the process, speedy deliverance of the process, speedy collection of the material. So here the emphasis is that a more technology can be used so that efforts can be arrived at in the earliest possible manner, rather than ensuring that people are running away from the system in the name of merely making a show that they are exercising their right to vote. So these practical difficulties which are being faced by the people who are engaged in this task, that need to be taken care of to ensure that the huge diaspora actually and actively participates in the process of right to vote, and even those who are vested with the duty of ensuring the rest of the population themselves also make it their primary duty, their primary responsibility that they would exercise their right to vote without compromising. So it is only then that the ideal of the Constitution, the framers of the Constitution, the reality of the preamble that it is for us, we the people, and we the people are representing the democratic setup of the country. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for giving a detailed presentation. And thank you for accepting our invitation. Next, we have our guest of honor, Mr. S.B. Tiwari, Member, Election Commission of India. Sir is from District Gautam Budh Nagar, which has 3 Vidhan Sabha seats, out of which Noida Vidhan Sabha is 1. Mr. Shashi Bhushan Tiwari is the head of the election team of 61 Noida Vidhan Sabha, who is always working with his team to keep the voters list updated. The main task of Mr. Tiwari is to convey the instructions received from the Honorable Election Commission of India to the booth level officers through the supervisors and get the ERO roles updated on the basis of the feedback received from them. Mr. S.B. Tiwari is continuously doing this work with his team successfully for the last 10 years. I would request Tiwari sir to please come and address the gathering.
नमस्कार छात्रों, नमस्कार। जाग जाइए। ये कहावत है ना, चैन से सोना है तो जाग जाओ। आप लोगों का जागरूक होना बहुत जरूरी है। मंच पर आसीन विद्वान वक्ताओं एवं ऑनलाइन जुड़े हुए वक्ताओं को नमन करते हुए मैं शशि भूषण तिवारी नोएडा विधानसभा क्षेत्र की कोर टीम से आप सभी का अभिनंदन करता हूं तथा सबको धन्यवाद देता हूं कि आज इस अति महत्वपूर्ण विषय पर अपने विचार विमर्श करने के लिए हम सब यहाँ एकत्रित हुए हैं। किसी भी निर्वाचन प्रक्रिया का सबसे महत्वपूर्ण अंग है उसमें जन भागीदारी का सुनिश्चित होना। समय के साथ साथ माननीय निर्वाचन आयोग द्वारा इलेक्टोरल रजिस्ट्रेशन सिस्टम को सुगम और सहज बनाने के लिए उसमें जो तकनीक का प्रादुर्भाव हुआ है, मैं उसके विषय में आप सभी का ध्यान आकर्षित करना चाहूंगा। चुनावी प्रक्रिया की ओर अधिक पारदर्शी और निष्पक्ष बनाने के लिए भारत निर्वाचन आयोग की ओर से सभी निर्वाचनों में ईवीएम के साथ अब वीवीपैट मशीनों को भी जोड़ा गया है। आप लोगों को शायद पता नहीं होगा, जो पुराने लोग हैं, पहले चुनाव जो होते थे बैलेट पेपर पर होते थे। बैलेट पेपर पर चुनाव में काफी धांधलियां होती थी और बैलेट लूट दिए जाते थे, बैलेट बॉक्स में पानी डाल दिया जाता था। अब वो घटनाएं खत्म हो गई हैं। ईवीएम जब शुरू हुई थी तब काफी लोगों की आपत्तियां थी कि हम अपना वोट जो डाल रहे हैं, मेरा वोट कहाँ पर जा रहा मुझे नहीं मालूम पड़ता है। माननीय निर्वाचन आयोग द्वारा वीवीपैट का निर्माण किया गया, जिसमें वोट डालते समय मतदाता देख सकता है कि उसने वोट किसको दिया है। उसकी डिस्प्ले एक मशीन होती है, उस पर जिसको आप वोट डाल रहे हैं, चुनाव चिन्ह उसको 10 सेकंड के लिए दिखाई देता है, जिससे उसको कंफर्म हो जाता है कि उसने वोट किसको डाला है। जैसे कि अभी हमारे साथी मनोज दुबे ने बताया था वोटर हेल्पलाइन ऐप के बारे में, तो मेरा सभी छात्रों से अनुरोध है कि वो आज ही अपने मोबाइल पर वोटर हेल्पलाइन ऐप डाउनलोड जरूर कर लें और अपने उसको लॉगिन आईडी बना लेंगे। उससे फॉर्म 6 जरूर भर दें। फॉर्म 6 नए मतदाताओं को जोड़ने के लिए होता है, जो प्रथम बार मतदाता बन रहे या जिनका कहीं भी वोट नहीं है। तो मुझे उम्मीद है आप लोग अपना वोट जरूर बनाएंगे और 2024 के निर्वाचन में भाग जरूर लेंगे। अगर VHA वोटर हेल्पलाइन में कोई प्रॉब्लम आपको आ रही है तो वोटर सर्विस पोर्टल, मतदाता सेवा पोर्टल भी ECI का है, उससे भी आप अपना वोट बनवा सकते हैं। ECI द्वारा कुछ ऐप बनाए गए हैं जो आम पब्लिक के लिए सुविधाजनक है, जैसे सक्षम ECI। एक सक्षम ECI ऐप है जिसमें जो दिव्यांग मतदाता होते हैं वो अपना दिव्यांगता का सर्टिफिकेट अपलोड करके उसमें जो 40% से अधिक दिव्यांग मतदाता हैं उनको सरकार द्वारा घर पर ही मतदान करने की सुविधा प्रदान की गई है। ये पिछले बार से लागू किया गया है, पिछली विधानसभा में लागू हुआ था। हमारी टीम आपके घर जाएगी और आपको वोट डालने की सुविधा देगी। इसी तरह जो 80 वर्ष से ऊपर के मतदाता हैं उनको भी यही सुविधा प्रदान की गई है कि वो आने में सक्षम नहीं है वोट डालने के लिए, तो हमारी टीम उनके घर जाएगी। एक फॉर्म होता है वो उनको घर कर जमा करना होता है, संबंधित DLO उनको घर जाएगी, वो घर जाएगा और वो फार्म भराएगा, तो मतदान के दिन हमारी टीम आपके घर जाएगी वोट डलवाने के लिए, जो दिव्यांग है और 80 वर्ष से अधिक आयु के मतदाता हैं। एक वोटर टर्न आउट ऐप है। वोटर टर्न आउट ऐप में आप ये जान सकते हैं कि वोटिंग के समय कितना परसेंटेज चल रहा है, जब काउंटिंग होती है सारी डिटेल आप वोटर टर्न आउट ऐप से जान सकते हैं। एक है KYC ऐप, नो योर कैंडिडेट, जो चुनाव लड़ रहा है उसकी आपको सारी जानकारी KYC ऐप से मालूम पड़ जाएगी। इस पर कितने क्रिमिनल केस हैं, क्या इसकी हिस्ट्री है, सारा कुछ आप उससे जान सकते हैं। और जो सही उम्मीदवार आपको लगे उसी को अपना मत जरूर दें। एक सी विजिल ऐप है, ये सारे मोबाइल ऐप हैं, आप अपने मोबाइल में डाल लेंगे, सुविधाजनक रहेगा। सी विजिल ऐप जब कन्वेंसिंग होती है, चुनाव लड़ा जाता है, उसमें जो आपकी शिकायत होती है, शिकायत आप फोन से करते हैं, उसकी सुनवाई नहीं हो पाती कभी कभी, तो सी विजिल ऐप से जैसे कि आप अपनी कंप्लेंट करेंगे, वहां की फोटो, जैसे कोई पैसे बांट रहा है, आपको कुछ शिकायत लग रही है कि ये जो चुनाव लड़ रहा है वो गलत काम कर रहा है, तो उसकी वीडियो बनाकर या फोटो खींचकर आप उस ऐप पर अपलोड करेंगे। 2 घंटे के अंदर ECI की टीम वहां मौके पर पहुंचेगी और उसका निस्तारण करेगी, जो भी कार्रवाई होगी वो करेगी, और आपकी गोपनीयता नहीं की जाएगी। ये किसने शिकायत की है ये गोपनीय रखा जाएगा। एक टोल फ्री नंबर है ECI का 1950। कोई भी आपको असुविधा हो रही है, वोट नहीं बन पा रहा है या कोई और भी कंप्लेंट है, तो 1950 पर आप कॉल करके पता कर सकते हैं। तो मैं उम्मीद करता हूं कि सभी जितने यहाँ बैठे हुए हैं वो फॉर्म 6 आज ही भर देंगे। नोएडा में परसेंटेज कम होता है, जैसे कि हमारे मनोज दुबे जी ने बताया, पिछली बार भी 52% शायद वोटिंग हुई थी विधानसभा में। इसका कारण मैन ये भी है कि वोटर यहाँ बने हुए हैं, फिर दूसरी जगह शिफ्ट हो गए। तो इस बार से गवर्नमेंट ने इसी साल से सुविधा लागू की है कि वो फॉर्म 8 से 8 नंबर फॉर्म है, उससे वो अपना वोटर कहीं भी शिफ्ट करा सकता है। आपका इपिक नंबर वो सेम रहेगा, जिस तरह से आधार नंबर, पैन कार्ड नंबर नहीं बदलता है, उसी तरह से इपिक नंबर भी नहीं बदलेगा। एक ही इपिक आपका हर जगह लागू रहेगा। धन्यवाद, थैंक यू।
Thank you very much, Tiwari sir, for talking about all the facilities given by Election Commission of India, especially the door-to-door facility which is provided to the senior citizens. It is our honor to receive the blessings by Dr. Ashok K. Chauhan, Honorable Founder President, Amity Education Group, Ritanand Baldev Education Foundation, Chairman AKC Group of Companies. Due to some official commitments, sir could not join us, but sir has sent his blessings for all of us. Thank you very much, sir, for your blessings. Now I would request our chairman, sir, and additional directors and joint HOIs of ALSN to please felicitate our guest of honor. I would request chairman, sir, and our additional directors and joint HOIs to please felicitate Shri Manoj Kumar Dubey, Member Election Commission. A huge round of applause, please. Thank you. Now I would request to welcome our guest of honor, Shri S.B. Tiwari, Member Election Commission of India. Please welcome, sir. Thank you very much. We are also thankful to all our guests of honors who have joined online, and we are thankful to them from the bottom of our heart, and we also felicitate them, and we are thankful that they have given their precious time to Amity University.
Now, I would like to request Professor Dr. Shefali Raizada, Additional Director, Joint HOI, to deliver the vote of thanks. Professor Dr. Shefali Raizada, ma'am, is currently working as Additional Director, Joint HOI, Amity Law School, Noida. Ma'am has been actively involved in Amity University.
Very good afternoon, all our guests. No need to clap first. वैसे तो I am given this very privilege to say big thank you to all the speakers on a such important area. But उससे पहले मैं ये कहना चाहूंगी, क्योंकि जो मैं अभी वॉच कर रही हूँ कि एक मुझे एक हिंदी कवि की एक पोयम याद आ रही है कि जब जब धरती पाप से डोले, अंधकार छा जाता है, तब मानव को राह दिखाने कोई क्षमा जलाता है। इसका मतलब क्या है कि जो मैं देख रही हूँ इसमें क्षमा जलाने का मतलब है कि जहाँ डार्कनेस है, जहाँ अनअवेयरनेस है जो कि आप पे अप्लाई होती है, वहां पर कोई ना कोई, तो ये जो हमारे इवेंट्स हैं जहां हम अपने डिस्टिंग्विश्ड गेस्ट को इनवाइट करते हैं आप लोगों के लिए, वो क्षमा जलाने जैसा है। जस्ट एनलाइटनमेंट एंड थ्रो द लाइट वेयर you are not knowing or not wanting to know it. But आज के इस लेक्चर से जो मैं अभी 1-1.5 घंटे से बैठी हूँ, मैंने ये तो समझ में आ गया, मेरे ख्याल से हमारे डॉक्टर तोमर, डॉक्टर भानु और सबको समझ में आ गया होगा कि कितनी अवेयरनेस है हमारे स्टूडेंट्स में। ये जो वी द पीपल विद राइट टू वोट, तो ये राइट टू वोट मुझे लगता है कि आप ऐसे लेते हैं कि राइट गिवन बाय द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन एंड वी हैव टेकन द राइट, इट इज अप टू अस और अप टू अवर विल एंड विश कि हम टेकन फॉर ग्रांटेड वाली बात है। बट उसके आगे मैं अपना ये फर्ज तो सबसे पहले कहूंगी कि those who have been the part of this as a distinguished guest, certainly they have thrown a very and touched the very important aspects of this voting rights, election, procedures, constitutional provisions, as a citizen's responsibility, so many things. Hardly any of you must have listened to everyone. I know, I'm very much sure. क्योंकि आप या तो बहुत सारे लोग ये लगाए हुए हैं या मोबाइल कर रहे हैं, आपको समझ में ही नहीं आ रहा कि ये चीज आपको आउट ऑफ द क्लास क्या दे दी गई, क्या मैसेज दिया गया, क्या नॉलेज दी गई। मुझे इस चीज का है कि आपको बस सिर्फ 18 इयर्स तो पता है, बट 18 इयर्स इन अदर सेंस तो पता है कि यू कैन अवेल दोज ऑल दीज थिंग बिकॉज यू आर मैच्योर, बट यू आर नॉट अंडरस्टैंडिंग कि आफ्टर अटेनिंग द एज ऑफ द व्हाट द रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज हैव कम टू यू, हैज बीन गिवन टू यू, और हाउ टू टेक अप दोज रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी, हाउ टू फुलफिल दोज रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी, ये समझ में नहीं आ रहा। अभी भी आप देखे मोबाइल देख रहे हैं, मेरे ख्याल से जो पीछे आई वॉज सीइंग द स्टूडेंट्स फॉर ईटिंग, दे आर नॉट पेइंग अटेंशन कि क्या इंपॉर्टेंट चीज आपको पॉलिटिकल साइंस में ये नहीं पढ़ाया जाएगा उस सेंस में जो आज आपको बताई गई ये चीजें। तो मैं रिक्वेस्ट चेयरमैन सर से करूंगी, जो मुझे समझ में आ रहा था कि सर्टेनली इट इज अवर ड्यूटी एज ए इंस्टीट्यूशन to let you know, not only knowing about your rights and all, but also your duty, responsibility by conducting some campaign for making the votes, your voting ID. अभी मैं सुन रही थी कि आपके जब तिवारी जी ने पूछा कि कितने लोगों के पास कितने ऐप हैं, तो कोई नहीं, हार्डली फ्यू हैंड्स वर रेज्ड। तो इससे ये हमें मैसेज मिलता है एज योर फैकल्टी कि हमको अब आगे क्या करना चाहिए, क्योंकि इट इज अवर रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी एज ए इंस्टीट्यूशन टू मेक यू अवेयर, टू लेट यू नो योर रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज एंड वेयर वी आर हेडिंग, वी मस्ट नो। सो दैट इज व्हाट मैंने कहा था, क्षमा जलाने कोई क्षमा जलाने आता है, कि ये चीजें जो हैं ये हमको एक मैसेज दे रही हैं कि हमारा सिर्फ पढ़ाने से ही मतलब नहीं, हमारा रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी और चीजों के लिए है। But anyhow, I am just really very thankful for all the speaker, right from the professor Dr. A.P. Singh, former Dean, GGIP University Department of Law, as being the first speaker, and very much important parts he has covered up what the Constitution has given to us. Secondly, our Bandyopadhyay sir, Chairman, Amity Law School, very nicely, chronologically, she has given how this kind of the practice evolved and the seriousness has come in the, and finally inbuilt and incorporate in the Constitution is very, very important in the democratic setup. I am very thankful for all Professor Dr. Qazi Usman. I am very thankful for the Niharika Zulka and Professor Rupam Jagota, all these professors, and along with the Professor Dr. MP Singh sir, for giving a very different inputs in the area, which I have been listening, and very variety of points have been, and key points have been highlighted, which are very, very significant for you people to understand. If you say ki we the people, so it is also, we the people need to be very, very responsible. So आपकी जो seriousness थी इन lectures को सुनने से उससे पता चलता है कि कितनी जागरूकता है आप में और कितने की जरूरत है आपको. I am very thankful now, Mr. From Election Commission as a member, our Dubeji, member Election Commission, and also Tiwari ji, member Election Commission. Very, very practical knowledge they have in. They are very much ready. Don't take it ki they are there. That is why you have to make your ID or voting ID. It is up to you, and they are there to support you. So first step should be taken by or from your side, and they are very much available in our very nearest point to support you if we are stuck or if we are not knowing. So that is what I am very grateful to both of our guest speakers on the dais for giving you very practical knowledge, very practical means what the support we can have and what is the importance. And you are at the right age to take the stand for this. So with all our Honorable Vice Chancellor ma'am, Professor Dr. Balvinder Shukla ma'am couldn't join, but certainly she was very much concerned, and she was wanting that our students of Amity of this campus or other campuses must be, each one of you must be having the voting and to avail your right, not in terms to take, but to give to the nation. So thank you so very much, all the dignitaries who have spoken, those who are fortunate, those who have listened all the lectures very well, rather than putting their attention here and there and only just sitting here for the sake of the attendance. No. Sometimes, because this knowledge will not be given in your classes में जो text आपको content है, वो आप लेते हैं सिर्फ exam clear करने के. But these are the various types of the lectures are to sensitize you, to give you the energy, to give you to understand out of the set pattern of the teaching and learning process. So please avail and understand the importance of these events, because you will be having so many events. So don't take you are sitting just for the attendance, just for having the knowledge. It is important and it depends on you in what sense you take it. So thank you all very much, all the faculty sitting here, all our Dr. Bhanu, very important part he has taken care of, and he has nicely organized this event. We are enjoying here, and thank you all the dignitaries and chairmen sir and all the university authorities for providing this opportunity to be the part of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Shefali ma'am. With this, we close the national webinar in hybrid mode. We close, yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. Chairman sir, additional directors, joint HOIs, Dubey sir and Tiwari sir for joining us in physical mode. Thank you very much. Students, please be seated until the